John West, Paranormal Park Ranger in The Maw Man. HQ Incident File Number 5, The Maw Man, Everglades National Park. Airboats reported missing in restricted wetland zone. Recovered subject found deceased with no physical trauma observed. Local reports describe intense emotional distress within vicinity, requesting immediate investigation. I hate the swamp. It's hot and miserable, and I hate it. I don't usually get so upset. That's why I'm a Jack Ranger, all-purpose, but that certainly doesn't mean I don't get affected. No, sirree, Bob. The swamp doesn't let you be. It weighs. It sits on your chest like a nightmare, and you can't ever find a minute's rest, no breath of cool air, not a second's relief from the torment. Howdy, folks! John West, Paranormal Park Ranger, here on assignment in Everglades National Park, sweating my balls off. Usually by early November the park has cooled down, but as I head southward from the homestead entrance through endless sawgrass, the air is still uncomfortably warm and sticky. Royal palms and gumbo limbo trees stand motionless along the shoulder, like even they can't be bothered to move in the heat. And the flocks of ibis, usually stalking the wet roadside ditches, are still. It's so static it feels like a primeval diorama. The water level is high from recent rains, and reflections of the sky shimmer across the flooded prairies. As I drive deeper, the flat expanses of freshwater marl give way to tree islands, dense tangles of cypress and willow. Eventually, I reach a gravel turnout near Pa-Hi-Oke Overlook. Here's where my partner for this assignment, Swamp Ranger Mel Alvarez, lives. Mel's shack sits on stilts and leans slightly to one side. It's patched in places with rusting sheet metal and mismatched planks, and the screen door hangs on one hinge. You might think it was a dump, and you wouldn't be far off. "Johnny!" I hear Mel call out the bathroom awning window. "Come on in. I'll be finished in a second." I've worked with Mel 3 times before because the Everglades' most famous spook, the skunk ape, is a real stinker. That's not why I'm here this time, though. This time it's something even stranger. Inside the shack, it's tight and utilitarian. Just Mel's cot, a battered desk covered in field notes and coffee mugs, a 2-burner stove, and a moldy dresser. The air smells like wet wood and citronella. "Best in the West!" Mel shouts as she comes barreling out of the bathroom in a cloud of steam. She's got way too much energy for how hot it is. "How's my favorite Jack?" she asks. Mel looks like she could be 10 or 80, the wisest eyes set into the most naive-looking face. "A hot shower, Alvarez?" I groan, loosening my tie to combat the swelter. "What's the big idea?" "I like a hot shower," she answers. "You could just go outside if you wanted a sauna," I joke. "No way, that's where I cool down," Mel retorts. "Nordic therapy?" Mel is unflappable, the coolest thing in the swamp, immune to upsettedness and completely aloof. You might think she was an idiot if she weren't so brilliant. "Pretty gnarly goings-on, don't you think?" I ask about our assignment. "Super gnarly. Here," she says, tossing me an ice-cold water from her cooler. 3 airboats have vanished near a place called Maunder's Cut deep in the swamp the past 2 weeks, a total of 5 park visitors between them. Maunder's Cut had been inaccessible for years, but a recent storm opened her up again. Sort of a Pandora's box. Local legend says the place has a pretty horrible history. "How horrible are we talking?" I ask. "Depends on who's telling the story. The rumors vary wildly, but recently I've been pointed to a guy who will supposedly know the facts. You ready to go talk to Stilts Calhoun?" I grit my teeth and answer, "I was born ready to talk to Stilts Calhoun." We take Mel's airboat to a hidden cut near Alligator Alley where our contact lives alone on a small houseboat. Stilts Calhoun is exactly what you want someone with that name to be. An old-timer with skin like a dried-out orange, a floppy straw hat that's more hole than hat, and a pet raccoon named Sugarbush who sits on his shoulder. Running all his words together, he emphatically responds, "Listen now, you can't come inside my property, man. Now I know my rights, okay? Listen now." "Hey, Stilts!" Mel calls out with a happy wave. "Are you too close?" I whisper to her. "Never met him," she answers under her breath. "Are we friends?" Stilts asks confusedly. "Sure are," Mel answers. "Say, you're a man in the know, a man who knows things, someone you want to ask when you've got a question, a man who's been around?" Stilts flashes a toothless smile that says he appreciates her approach. In his syrupy Glades drawl, he answers, "Well, you know I am. Of course you know it." "What can you tell us about Maunders Cut?" I ask him. The smile falls off Stilts's face. "What you want to know about it, Ranger?" "The cut was reopened by the storm, Stilts," Mel tells him. "Now, folks are disappearing down there." Stilts goes from orange to white. "Maunders Cut. Opened up, huh?" he says quietly. "Well, Dewey Maunder, that was his place long time ago. I never knew the man. My great-grandfather said Dewey was quiet, but he seemed kind. Lived with his family out there. They would go to church when they could. But when the 1919 hurricane came through, they were stranded in rising water for weeks." Stilts seems like he's too upset to keep talking. "What happened to them?" I ask. "Unless you don't want to talk about it." He pets Sugarbush slowly as he says softly, "Rumor says he ate them." "His family?" I gasp. Stilts gives a sad nod. "What happened to Dewey?" Mel asks. Stilts answers, "He turned into a monster. That's what my granddaddy said, called him the Maw Man. Said now he ain't nothing but a mouth." "And what happened to the Maw Man?" I ask. "He's still there today?" Stilts answers, "I'll bet. My granddaddy told me Dewey Maunder can't die because he won't let himself. Too much guilt over what he did." His eyes glaze over for a moment before he shakes his head and continues, "But who are we to judge when ain't no judge even fit to judge? I mean, you have opinions, sure, but those are all different and all. But I don't think you should eat no one. But that makes me remember the beans on the stove, so please to excuse me and thank you, officers, and don't come back all right by now." As we troll slowly away from the Calhoun residence, I ask Mel, "Isn't that the most awful thing you've ever heard? Eating your own family." "No," she answers, "but it's close. Are you hungry?" In the Everglades, decomposition happens shockingly fast due to the heat, humidity, and bacteria. A body here could be unrecognizable in a week and mostly gone in a month, especially if submerged and scavenged. It makes looking for victims really gross. Mel and I speed our way to Maunders Cut on the lookout for the missing airboaters. The fan is too loud for conversation. "Almost there!" Mel calls jubilantly from the steering wheel. She's having the time of her life, all the time. Me, I'm being eaten by mosquitoes, I'm dehydrated, and I hate it. I try to clear my mind, but my thoughts wander to when I first came to this park as a young Jack fresh off my HQ exams. I was so relieved to not be a smoke jumper anymore. Dealing with fire was honestly a lot scarier than maw men. So much more deadly. Every single death from my smoke jumping days still haunts me sometimes, even though I've gotten better at handling it. I wasn't ready at all for that first time, though. It's the only one I just can't forget. Mel slows the boat down as we come upon an airboat that has crashed into a tree. Its blade creaks slowly in the wind. Surely it's one of the missing three. As we near it, I see a body curled comfortably into the fetal position. No injury, no trauma, no decomposition, just an incredibly sad look on her face and the overall impression that she just well, gave up. What do you think happened to her? I ask Mel. I don't know, Mel says. Who knows what happens or why? I've got 3 mana that are going to expire soon, though. We're going to attempt to revive. I never know if Mel's joking, and she's the type who would never let on, and so I just follow her lead and hold the dead woman's eye open as Mel drops the mana onto her pupil. The woman wriggles and wells up with tears. It seems like she might come back, like her engine might turn over, but the mana fails, and she only slumps over in further despair and greater deadness. It's like she just doesn't even care enough to live, I say. Her loss, Mel sighs, which is glib even for Mel. She'll be back again, whether she likes it or not. We all will, until we learn to move on. I'm usually very interested in philosophy, but for some reason, at this moment, I can't get that damn death off my mind. That first one. The woman I got too late because I thought I knew where I was going without a map. When I found her, she looked just like the poor woman in the airboat, curled up. It just keeps replaying on a loop in my head. It's driving me crazy. You all right, Johnny Cakes? Mel asks. Need a Coke? The heat feels suffocating. My head swims and my vision tunnels. I don't feel right, Mel, I say. It's pretty hot if you're not used to it, she says, tossing me a sweaty, ice-cold red can. I miss it completely, and it plunks into the swamp. An alligator pops up and chomps it, and it explodes in its mouth. It's hilarious, and yet it brings me no joy. No, it's something else, I say. It's like I feel a weight, not humidity, but something else. Probably just because those mosquitoes have sucked out half your blood, Johnny. Don't worry, you're all right. Let's find some shade so you can cool off. Under the cover of a huge elm tree, I sip on a different Coke and scan the lush greenery. I'm trying hard to see it, to focus, but I just can't. I'm dissociating from guilt, from the persistent image of her dead body. A feeling that it was my fault. It's eating me from inside. But even in this state, I know something is off. I have dealt with trauma for years. I see death all the time now. It usually doesn't affect me. It's only a job. But still, for some reason, all I can see is that woman. John! Mel calls out, interrupting the awful memory. John, stay with me. Mel, I'm losing it, I tell her. No, you're fine, she says. Look, she continues, bringing over a small silver HQ device. Read the monitor. What's it say? I can hardly bring myself to ask. It says that grief levels here are off the charts. It's why that poor woman shut down. It's why you're shutting down. Why aren't you? I ask her. Because I don't live with grief in any way, shape, or form, she answers matter-of-factly. What? Because you're above it? No, not at all. I lived with a lot of sadness for a long time, but none of us are meant to carry anything forever. I try to follow my heart and treat people with kindness. That's all we're responsible for. The rest will be sucked into the sun someday, anyway. What does that even mean, Mel? I ask. I'm just saying what you're feeling is temporary, she answers encouragingly. But I'm still feeling it, I say. Mel, it hurts, like it just happened. It hurts so much. Mel smiles and opens her hand to reveal a radiant yellow relief cube in her palm. Cheer up, Charlie, she says as the cube activates and calm relaxation floods my body. I feel immediately better. Color returns to the world. I can breathe and my mosquito bites itch again. Oh, thank you so much, I coo, almost on the verge of tears. I just think nothing of it, Mel says. I'm pretty sure that's her philosophy. Redetermined, we continue to Maunder's cut. I don't let on, but I'm clutching Mel's relief cube with sweaty palms. The fear of my guilt returning has me on the verge of a panic attack. Ah, Florida. You can tell there has been a storm. It takes us some time to navigate the displaced trees. When we find Maunder's houseboat, what's left of it, it's in a cut barely wide enough for us to enter. The banks are wildly overgrown with sawgrass, and black mangrove branches meet overhead like clasped hands, filtering the sunlight into streaks that never quite touch the water. The boat itself is nothing more than a bloated wooden hull patched with sheet metal and marine tar, tethered to a leaning cypress with fraying rope and half submerged. What's left of the tin roof rusts on top of a crooked cabin, and swamp vines have started to grow through the broken windows. It's almost as bad as Mel's place. "You think it's safe in there?" I ask her as she hops from the airboat onto the rotting structure. "Who knows?" she replies. "YOLO!" Yeah, you only live once, I think to myself, unless you mess up and have to live forever like Maw Man. "You go first," I tell her. Inside, the air is thick with mildew and rot. The floorboards are warped and uneven, and dim light filters through missing slats in the wall. A fraying recliner slumps under the weight of wool blankets soaked with swamp air, and the walls are etched with names, dates, possibly prayers. At the far end of the boat, just submerged, is a hatch leading to the lower bilge. "You all right, John?" Mel asks me. "For now," I answer. "This is so silly. You know I'm not usually affected by anything." "No judgments here, pal," Mel says warmly and sincerely. "Remember when Skunk Ape farted?" She adds out of nowhere, laughing like she only just remembered it herself. It warms me up a little. "I'm lucky you're here," I say to her. Just then, my Spectrola begins to pick up static and then a voice. It sounds horrific. "I didn't want to," it says. "I was just so hungry." "It's him!" I gasp. "Dewey Maunder, you have to move on!" Mel calls out, jumping into action. "Holding on to this grief isn't serving you or anyone else." There's that brilliance I was telling you about. "I didn't deserve to survive," comes the moaning voice through the speaker. "You don't know what happened." "It doesn't matter what happened," Mel says. "It's over and done, and it can't be changed." "You don't know," the thing wails as the water in the lower bilge begins to churn. Slowly, we see a figure start to rise from the froth, tall and water-swollen, with skin stretched thin over busted joints, mottled gray and brown like driftwood left too long in the sun. His hair hangs in clumps, tangled with moss and insect husks, and his clothes, rotting flannel and overalls, are soaked and fused to his frame. His mouth gapes, slack and permanent, lips split, teeth dark as if the muscles had forgotten how to close. The Maw Man. "What do you need in this world?" Mel begs. Maw Man doesn't answer, he doesn't attack, he doesn't do anything at all. He simply stares, and it's mortifying. Mel starts backing toward the door, but I'm paralyzed, deluged with drowning guilt over that woman I couldn't rescue. The emotion as raw as the day it happened, only it keeps growing now like a mosquito bite in my mind until I just want to tear it out. For one of the few times in my career, I feel like I'm overwhelmed. I can't stand it. The heat, the choking humid air, the horrible guilt. I just want to fall into the swamp and... Mel grabs my arm and pulls me back. "It's getting to you, isn't it?" she asks, looking deep into my eyes as she squeezes my hand. "He's not doing this to hurt us," I say to her as I drip with sweat and struggle to breathe. "It's the place. I just don't think I'm strong enough." "It's okay, John," Mel says, helping me through the door jamb. "Let's go. Everything is okay, no matter what happens. All right?" We climb back into the airboat and start to head out. I can slowly breathe again. The wind cools my skin, and the relief is absolute only yards from the site. The magic of this place is some of the most powerful I've ever seen. "Turn around," I tell Mel. "We're already leaving," she responds. No, I mean, head back to Maunders. Let's finish our assignment. I can do this. I can move past this. The power I seek is within me. Mel laughs. Who needs self-help when you've got an inner monologue like this guy? She asks with a smile. Alvarez, I think you ought to take the lead, I tell her. Like I already was, she asks sarcastically. Sure thing. I don't think Maunder will listen to us until we find out what really happened. He kept saying we didn't know. Good thinking, Mel, I tell her. Let's investigate. The sky is pink with twilight when we make it back to the houseboat. As soon as I re-enter, the choke starts to take hold, but I try to remind myself it's not real. I clear my mind and fight the sluggish apathy setting into my muscles with all the focus I can muster. Thankfully, it's not long before we find a journal in a watertight box. The entries are desperate. Maunder tried to save his family, Mel says, paging through the journal rapidly. But he couldn't. They died one by one. How horrific, I say. It's an automated response. I can't think at all. I know it would devastate me. His wife told the family if any of them had to, if they were the last ones left, they had to do whatever it took to survive. Then the youngest child died, and Dewey was the last standing. I shake my head, not so much as a reaction to the horror as to distract myself. Mel continues, unaffected. The final entry reads, No God could ever forgive me, and no devil would even claim me. I'll never know peace again. I'm barely holding on. Maunder! I call out desperately. Maunder! You had your wife's blessing. They were dead, your poor family. They were dead. There was nothing more you could do for them. I realize I'm shouting at myself too. There was nothing we could do. We have to let go. Again, the Maw Man rises slowly from the swamp, pooled in the far corner of the rotting cabin. Only now, his black mouth is growing larger and larger, swelling with teeth until it stretches from floor to ceiling. You're forgiven, Mel cries. I think she might even be worried. You don't have to stay here, Dewey. He's still not listening, I say. Not to us. At the end of my rope, nearly broken with despair, suddenly I have an idea. But with how charged this place is, I bet his family is still here too. Let me search the spectrola. Immediately, the voice of one of his children comes through. We still love you, Daddy, the little voice says. The Maw Man's eyes open now, for the first time. They are red and bleeding. You did your best, Dad, another older voice says. Maunder weeps confusedly. No, I was your father. I never should have. He's softening, but still won't let go, I say. Let's give him a push, Mel says, rolling a relief cube across the room. It comes to rest, blinking in the brackish water at the Maw Man's feet. I wasn't thinking. I couldn't. I was so hungry. I only wish I had died before you, children. Daddy, we would have been so much more scared. The cube pulses faster and faster with light. Let go, Dewey, an older woman's voice urges, Maunder's wife. Let yourself die. Come with us. Let us leave this place together. We forgive you. And then, with a burst of white light, the relief cube activates. The monster starts slowly sucking up all the air in the room, his mouth opening wider and wider as he draws out every last vapor. He holds it for a brief second and then yawns. The biggest yawn imaginable. One starting so deep in the swamp that the horrid stench of his steamy exhale makes us gag. When he's finished, he finally closes his mouth, and immediately his rotten insides start to pour out of huge holes that open all over his body. His form slackens, not melting, but resting finally, all his years of suffering. You're free, Dewey Maunder, Mel says to him tenderly. You can go to sleep. He gives us a final look, thankful and tired, before disappearing with a small splash. What grief is left in the cabin vanishes in an instant. The air cools, the bugs go quiet. I wipe my brow and find my hands dry. More importantly, my mind is at peace. "Hey, I think that did the trick," Mel says happily. "Think so, Mel," I say, as relieved as Dewey. "Think so." Suddenly, the whole houseboat starts to groan and shift. Mel and I flee, jumping back onto our airboat and pulling away just as the old structure sinks completely into the swamp. I see the light go on inside the cabin, and I can see the whole Maunder family together again just before the boat disappears. And when it does, I swear a little family of fireflies buzz off into the night together. Mel and I go back to her shack and have popsicles while we listen to NPR Prairie Home Companion, the chamomile of radio shows. I'm so far from upset right now, I'm placid. Going through this whole ordeal kinda makes me feel grateful. It's reminded me I'm not hardened, that I've done a lot of work to get to a place where things don't affect me, not because they shouldn't, but because I've got monsters to stop and people to save, more important things to do, you know? Anyhow, thanks for listening to my therapy session. Freakouts happen to everyone, except maybe Mel, and it's not a big deal so long as you freak back in. And hey, don't worry, John West, Paranormal Park Ranger, has got you covered.